That's as close to hell as I want to get. And the only way to get closer to hell is to try to survive The Gorge, an Apple TV original directed by Scott Derrickson, who's done films like the remake of The Day the Earth Stood Still, as well as Sinister, Doctor Strange, and The Black Phone. Scott Derrickson has certainly had a varied career. Some movies that have been great, some movies that have really not met expectations. And then The Gorge. He brought none of his talents to The Gorge. I imagine he got a shit pot full of money and they said, look, we know you've done good movies, but please, Apple TV executives are saying, just make something that'll make people tune into our streaming service that really has some of the worst interface, some programs that people like, but honestly, a selection of movies that varies from Fly Me to the Moon to what the fuck were they goddamn thinking, like Ghosted and Argyle and various others. Can you tell how I felt about The Gorge? Maybe I'll tell you more about how I felt about The Gorge as this goes on. It was written by an AI program named Zach Dean. I refuse to believe that this was written by an actual goddamn human. Or Zach Dean was basically forced, practically at gunpoint, to write a film so goddamn bland, so generic, full of every bit of stock, character, generic behavior, all this goddamn stuff, and some of the worst special effects and green screen effects that I've seen in motherfucking years. The Gorge is a waste of a particularly bland concept that could have at least worked somewhat if they tried at all, but they didn't. By the way, Zach Dean did Deadfall and Fast X. You know what? It's kind of making sense as to why the writing was so bad. Miles Teller, or Miles Teller that is, it would actually be kind of funny if he was a tiller, because that would mean that he would be doing some farming of some variety. And actually, if he was a farmer, it would have helped him figure out how to cultivate what's inside the Gorge. By the way, Miles Teller was in Top Gun Maverick, which is really good. Anya Taylor-Joy is in this. They made me not want to watch any movies with Anya Taylor-Joy. Congratulations, The Gorge. I adore Anya Taylor-Joy. Adore her. She's a goddess among women. She's absolutely captivating. She was in Last Night in Soho. She was in The Northman. From The Vivitch, yes, I know it's called The Witch. Work with me here. I have just been absolutely enthralled by any role that I have seen her play. Even in the bad movies. She is really fucking goddamn good. She was great in Furiosa. Furiosa should have done a lot better at the box office than it did. Sigourney Weaver is in this, in the sense that her name is on the marquee and she is on screen for 10 minutes, maybe. I don't even know if it's that long. And Sope Dirisu, who was in His House. And by the way, pretty good actor. Definitely deserved better than he got here. And yeah, from there, we don't really have a lot of characters. I mean, actually, this is probably the smallest casted movie of actual humans for a big budget action flick that I have seen in so goddamn long. The idea, there's the West Tower, the East Tower, there's year-long stints for whoever is outposted there, and there's a garden, there's supplies, there's all this stuff, and the one mission is to keep whatever's in the gorge from getting out. That's it. That is it for the concept right there. Without getting into spoilers, what's in the gorge is something they don't want to get out. That's pretty much it, and there's nothing to this. They try to add a bit of an element of like dread as far as what would you do with somebody that you'd form an attachment to, even though they are way across the goddamn gorge. There is a point where Miles Teller will go to great lengths to be with Anya Taylor-Joy. Who fucking wouldn't? I would shatter a mountain for that woman. But that being said, it's not even interesting before, we find out what's inside the gorge. And unfortunately, when we see it, this movie lost me pretty early on, but it really lost me when we saw what was inside the gorge. And I honestly question if they thought these special effects were good enough, or they thought, people will be dumb enough to click on this movie and figure it out. For those 5 people that have an Apple TV subscription. I kid, of course. By the way, the reason I am knocking this movie so much is I used up a free trial of Apple TV a while ago. And I decided, you know what? I love Anya Taylor-Joy. Miles is a pretty good actor, and I love me some Sigourney Weaver. I don't know why she keeps making the decisions to be in movies that she is currently, but nevertheless, she's in her twilight years and can still provide a lot of star power. So I decided with those 3, that 3-headed Hydra, and the fact that I've certainly seen worse posters and worse trailers, I only saw a teaser, I decided to basically get a month subscription, which is $10. 10, $11, depending on the tax brackets and everything. So I feel perfectly within my rights to knock this movie that couldn't have cost more than $10 to write. I'm sorry, this is paralyzingly dull, absolutely batshit, bafflingly stupid, and really every bit of generic, just gruel feeling to it. Like every, idea was just sanded down. It's like just a block of with no edges. It's just like a block of gruel, a block of jello. Ironic for something that we see a little bit later on. It kind of reminds me of Annihilation, except Annihilation was, way better compared to this. I actually need to rewatch Annihilation. Alex Garland could have made this movie work. Certainly better than whatever they forced Scott Derrickson to do, because there's no way that Scott could have thought he was making a good movie here. I'm not in anybody's head, but he's made good movies before. Then again, you get a shit pot full of money, what the fuck are you gonna do? Terrible. It's a terrible movie. I'm gonna get into spoilers here in a minute, but it is on Apple TV if you really want to check it out, but it is very, very bad. These Apple TV action movies just, it's like, despite the fact that Apple has more money than about 15 federal governments put together, they don't understand how to actually draw people in with action. Even if you make something a little bit generic as far as the story, the action's enthralling, you can have people ready to watch it. Or you can have people ready to hate the Gorge like I did. So there you go, spoilers. There's weird creatures, experimental creatures in the Gorge that are coming up. That's what's going on there. Why are these experimental creatures there? Who's behind this? Sigourney Weaver. Sigourney Weaver's behind this because there's something called Dark Lake. By the way, her character is listed as Bartholomew. I don't know why that made me laugh, but it did. JD is played by Sope Dirisu, who is in his house, and he explains to Levi, played by Miles, hey, what are you going to end up, what are you going to do for a year here? Let me tell you the rundown of what I had passed down to me. We get a bit of a background on him, that he has no attachments. Bartholomew, I'm sorry, it's a stupid name for a woman. It just is. I mean, I'm not here to judge much. I will judge this movie harshly, but that being said, if you happen to be a woman named Bartholomew, no disrespect. So Sigourney basically says to Miles, hey, you're a really good shot. You don't have any people that would miss you if you went away for a year? No? Okay, fine. Oh, and apparently he had a psych test that he failed or something like that, and he couldn't get back out into the field because he's former military and stuff like that. And we went like a few minutes without dialogue, and then when people started talking and said, okay, I take back what I was saying about there not being enough dialogue. Go back to making this a silent movie with explosions. And then he basically gets put there. JD talks to him. JD then goes to leave, and JD gets shot. Oh, yes, and by the way, you don't communicate with the East Tower, and the East Tower can't communicate with you, which I call bullshit right there, given what they end up doing. There's guns every 600 meters, there's cloakers and such, stuff that basically disguises the Gorge, so whatever in the Gorge can't get out. The green screen effects are horrendous. And you need to stop what's in the Gorge from coming out. They're called the Hollow Men. It's based on a T.S. Eliot poem, story, thing, something. Possibly something that he had during a fever dream. I can only imagine a T.S. Eliot, if he was still alive at this point, would probably say, what the fuck are you doing to my work? Maybe he should rise from the grave and just basically slap whoever decided to fund this. JD didn't make it long because he got shot, because basically the idea is now that somebody's ready to leave, nobody can leave. Nobody can ever know, or share the secrets of the Gorge. So, Drasa, that's Anya's character, or Anya, I think it's Anya, and Levi, they talk to each other with giant notepads, convenient telescopes too. It's like that Dawn of the Dead part where they were showing the weird hippie guy writing on stuff, writing on the dry erase board. I should rewatch the remake of Dawn of the Dead. It's certainly better than any other of the Dead movies that came out later. So, then, they chat, they joke. Anya dancing to the Ramones. God, I gotta watch her dance all day. I don't have issues. So then about, 30-something minutes in, we see these hollow men, and my God, they're just, they got weird tendrils, they got weird stuff coming out of them, branches and leaves and stuff like that, because this genetic coding has basically fused them with various parts of the wildlife. I don't know why I said wildlife that way, but yeah, they're crawling up in terrible special effects. I have seen stuff in 1970s, like, Z-grade movies. I saw stuff in Danger on Tiki Island, or Brides of Blood, or whatever the hell it's called. It's the one the Cinematic Titanic did. Those special effects somehow looked better. That is saying something. Because this was such obvious CGI, and not even like well-formed CGI. If you can lose yourself with special effects like that, it's one thing. Or you can just lose the audience by having bad special effects like that. It is an abomination watching this gunfire, this stuff. I was zoning out. I actually decided to, I told my friend, I said, you gotta get on and watch this shit. I said, take a look at this. They got to the same part I did. They said, what the fuck? I said, that's what I was saying. So, anyway, apparently it was her birthday. Oh, yes, and Drass's dad said that since he's very ill, he's going to take his own life on February 14th. And then on Christmas, Oh, come ye faithful, we have a weird rock version of this song for no reason. So, her dad died on Valentine's Day because he said he was going to take his own life. And only those who will risk it all, will risk going too far, could possibly find out how far one can go. All this stuff is written on these bricks of this, West Tower. And the idea is, maybe you could come over. Like, even though they're across the goddamn gorge and it's not like there's a rope bridge. No, what they did is, there's these weird creatures below that did that, and we got in a big gunfire deal, and you got hurt, Drassa. But yeah, sure, I'll shoot this rocket up with this giant cable, and I'll crawl across. And then he stays over there for a bit. I mean, I'd cross a goddamn pit of mutant creatures to go visit Anya Taylor-Joy. Who wouldn't? So, they share some fun. He wrote poetry for her that he shares a little bit later on with her. And then there was one point where she was dancing and the guy would fold like a fucking sheet. My God, who would not just adore Anya there, or Anya? So, then he's crawling across the cable. But then the hollow men are up. And there's these weird explosions and stuff like that basically rocket and snap the cable. The flame snapped the cable because the flame shot up about 1 million feet in the air. And he falls into the gorge. So she immediately gets some weapons and dives right in. Has a parachute. She gets rocked. He gets locked into this Trina's fly trap that's like this compound adhesive that does this because this weird mutated stuff going on. I don't know why that made me laugh, that is. So basically, there was this story about these soldiers that went down to investigate what was going on with this, and they got caught. These soldiers on horseback. Oh, look, there's weird tree creatures on horseback. Almost like everybody there got mutated. Huh, jeez, I wonder what the fuck. So, there's an old village lost in time. And the Hollow Men was based on the T.S. Eliot work, as I said. There's a lab that after getting in shootouts and stuff like that, they somehow managed to find their way to this lab where I don't know why I laughed at this, but this lab that contained all this old equipment, this old film from 1946. The doctor was cute, I'll say that much. And the idea is basically now it's to contain this whole thing. There's mutants, or this mutation. If you're exposed to it for hours, you might be okay. Days, you're fucked. And 5 days, if you turn after 5 days, then, you're infected. So, they also find new technology there that's from Dark Lake, that is the company that Bartholomew, again, played by Sigourney Weaver, runs. Has genetic research, and and there's also, they wanted to create super soldiers. There's also this missile that uses this all-consuming, fail-safe, that if all else fails, just destroy it, just blow it up. You got a couple minutes to get away. So, they did end up at one point getting in this church. This was before this, by the way. There were facehugger spiders and tree people attacking in this church. The idea is this village is supposed to bond the East and the West, I guess, in holy mutant matrimony. And, so yeah, they got this giant bomb. They're gonna get out, but yeah, then Drasa gets captured, and Miles Teller basically goes after her. Again, who wouldn't go after Anya to basically go to the ends of the earth to save her? Yes, maybe I will profess my love one of these days. Shut up. No, seriously, I just really like Anya, and it's hard not to be captivated by her. So, this tree monster is trying to attack her. She basically ends up setting it on fire. They're running out of bullets. Then there's this jello mold weird thing with, like, taffy pull stuff of these creatures weirdly created. And then there's, like, this one, like, little rocket launcher thing left. It's, like, Metal Slug all of a sudden, and Anya shoots that and blows them up. Oh, they find some old Jeeps that somehow still have gas? Okay. Sure. And they manage to get up there, and they're going to winch themselves 500 meters up that gorge. 500 feet wouldn't be much of a gorge. Higher than I could climb, but I digress. So they're getting up there, but these creatures are attacking. They're getting hit and stuff like that. But the creatures are really stupid, and they keep falling. They keep getting hit. And it kind of reminded me of Temple of Doom. I kept wanting somebody to go Kalima, Kalima to me. But they get out very easily. Bartholomew, again, played by Sigourney Weaver, contacts him after he gets back over with more cable that they just happen to conveniently have. None of this makes any goddamn sense. And, yeah, they get back over there. She basically finds out, well, somebody accessed our devices. Was it you? Well, if it wasn't you, if you didn't go into the gorge, then it must have been your Eastern counterpart. She, of course, has the footage and sees that both of them were down there. So she realizes it's her mistake. I'll kill him myself if I have to. I certainly wish somebody would have put a bullet in my head like I was Chris Von Erich, because it would be better than watching this goddamn slop. And then we get a stupid shootout where they're on respective sides of the goddamn thing, but they blow up these satellites, these cloakers, and now suddenly the gorge is exposed. So then the missile failsafe is going to launch, which ends up causing Sigourney Weaver and the people there, the soldiers, to wreck. And it looks like Miles is totally dead. It looks like Levi's dead. Oh no, Levi 5-0 dead genes. And suddenly, he had handed, by the way, the poem to her before all this, before going back. He ended up, he was written off. Oh no. Drasa, later, it's in April. She is reading this at this place that she knew in France that somehow he knew where it was. Guess he had the GPS coordinates, and she was working at a restaurant, and suddenly he's there. And that's it. That is literally this fucking movie. I don't know how I got that much material out of it, because honestly, this movie is so this movie is an abomination. This movie is so fucking bland and generic, and I just couldn't help but knock this whole goddamn thing, this whole fucking fiasco. It gets an F. If this is not at least in the top 10 worst by the end of this year, I will be amazed. I will be astonished. I know it's only mid-February, but this is fucking terrible. Yeah, if agree, disagree with what I said, like, share, subscribe, Twitter, Letterboxd, Blue Sky handles in the description. I'm John Rethlin, and I'll see you soon.